Well, good morning, everybody. As you can tell, I am not Apostle Chris Turney. And this is not me.
Well, a little bit.
Although it's kind of like, an extension
Extension, yes.
of me. Anyway, I'm Dr. Rick Kendall, sitting in for Apostle Chris Turney. And this is my son, Jay Kendall, otherwise a.k.a. Pastor Jay Kendall.
Right.
Yes.
I only became a pastor through experience.
Yeah.
So, of course.
Well, hey, that's the way to become a pastor.
I really think it's the only way to really do
too
it.
many are that way without experience, and that's...
Yeah. But, it's really good to study. But, yes, my name is Jay. I'm his son, here to do Kingdom Conversations.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are.
Thank you for agreeing to come in.
Yes.
And you are over at The Crossing.
The Crossing Community Church, but also a co-founder for the Global Embassy Network.
Ah, yeah, that's right. That's our network.
Also working with the Global Embassy Network, who says we can't network in many different places.
There you
but
go.
Yes.
And Kingdom Advanced Training.
And Kingdom Advanced Training.
The cats.
And the cats.
Yeah.
So,
So
it was more like a kitten.
you have a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah. Somebody keeps turning up my fire. I don't know who it is, but
It might be God.
Yeah, it just keeps turning it up. I'm like, well, let's just throw some more iron in there.
So hopefully we'll begin to see some folks coming in here and joining. I think I see now that Molly is on.
Hello.
Bobby is on. Let's see. Please share and let people know that we are on. I know we're missing Apostle Chris Turney today, but he will be back in this chair directly.
And you guys have some great conversations too.
Yeah. You listen?
Oh yeah, of course.
You view us?
I view us. I sometimes put the little hand emojis.
Oh,
up,
that's true.
But
that's true.
I listen, and whenever I can, it's really awesome. Plus, you can also go back to the broadcasts and listen to the past broadcasts.
Yeah.
But it's really, really awesome. You guys, it seems like you guys have a lot of the same heart of what you're talking about. Like you almost finish each other's sentences, which is really good.
Well, and to me, I love that it's unscripted.
Yeah.
Just like today, I didn't really talk. We maybe mentioned a couple of things, but this is totally unscripted. You think we can handle it?
I don't know. I'm not very good with that, but we'll see. Just
well, let me start off with asking you a question, and we'll get into something. What is your passion? Why do you feel like that you are in this thing we call ministry that's really in-house, but it also reaches out to the world?
I never, passion is, it's so hard to say because, I have so much passion for different things. It's almost, ministry, as you know, I didn't really want to do it. Because I grew up in ministry. I saw my mom and dad, the pastors of their church. And, you see stuff as a PK kid, pastor's kid, behind the scenes. And it's kind of like, I don't really think this is for me. This is kind of, and you see like everything's happy at church, but then you go home and it's kind of, you see the real life of things, and it's kind of like, you think you have to betray yourself some way, and getting to passion is, I never really wanted to do it. I was, I played music, and I think you've been to some of my shows when I was younger, and dressing in, my emo clothes, and whatever, playing rock and roll music. But I definitely, the thing is I didn't know that I had a passion for it until I was, put into the position of ministering to these kids in the projects that, somebody asked me, they're like, well, listen, you're pretty funny. Can you put on this little, can you make, sure. So, I did that, but then it started with music as well, is that I think that music was my tie first to, I didn't think, I could lead worship the way I do now, but I just, I said, well, sure, why not? And somebody gave me the opportunity, and then I started to figure out what my passion is and still figuring out what it is, actually. So, but yeah, and I think passion is, you have to have that drive to want to do better, want to do more, but also we're always still figuring out what it is. But well, I feel like that's in ministry. I'm still figuring that out, but it's so many things.
Well, I think I see your why, as we would say, not your what, but your why, appears to be a love for people, to really help them, especially before you were more involved in children's ministry. You still do that. Right. But now you've graduated into ministering the word in the general church arena and then out beyond that. So I kind of see that your why is helping people to discover their purpose and destiny. Is that right?
Yeah, I really enjoy that because I don't know why I just feel like, if what God did it for me, well, that's great. And when I first started doing ministry, maybe you can definitely detest, say that you can agree, not detest, attest to it, not detest, attest. You can attest to that. When you first get into ministry, you got to lead people to God. You got to convince them. You got to feel what I feel, and then, but it isn't like that at all. And it's like you don't want to force people, but it is guiding people to their purpose.
Yeah.
And that people just want to talk. People just want to have somebody to listen to, or just to be listened to. And it's great to see people's strengths and what they do, and it's just really awesome to guide them to that. But also, when I do that, it actually helps me find more of who I am as well.
That's very true. I'm growing just by looking at the journey of others that are growing. So you never really stop learning and growing. So, I thought today we would talk a little bit, because you mentioned coming up in a pastor's home and what that was like, and you saw the good along with the bad and the ugly.
Great movie.
Yeah. So, but somewhere along the way, I know one thing that I determined to do. I feel like there's a lot of areas where I missed it in raising our kids, but one of the things I got right was I never ever expected for you or Ricky or Victoria to be like me, to do what I'm doing the way I'm doing it.
Right.
To me, legacy is not about copying the past. It's about carrying on into the future some principle. So you must have seen something that you saw that I was able to, and not just me, you and your mom, me and your mom, that we celebrated about you that was uniquely you.
Right. I think growing up I think I saw so much of everybody's hard time, because we all have our, even me and I know Ricky and Victoria and different things. And I more so saw that, when you came like to the end of yourself saying, I don't know, I got to make things right. I know I could see your heart, and I know the other kids could too. But the thing was, I started seeing that you just, for you, in a sense, I know for Mom as well, but your main passion in life was to guide others to that passion. And I think within that, your heart was, I just want people to feel loved. And you would go out of your way to help people and to help them feel loved. And I started to see that, now the simplicity of, sometimes we overcomplicate it, like, well, we got to do these great things, we got to do these big showy things we got to do, but really people just want to be loved. And that's really what Jesus was calling to. And when I was younger, I didn't really understand it, but then coming I was like, my dad and my mom just want people to feel loved. And I think it's really what it comes down to. And that was really you guys' hearts all along, is just for people to feel loved. And I think, religion or ministry, we feel like sometimes that we have to just appease people or but really it's just about more so being real.
Yeah, so I know I've watched your journey, of course, very closely, but I have watched how you've come out of what we call religion, meaning the traditions of men that are set there by men for their purposes, and how you've come into more of an understanding of the kingdom. And how it's a government and how it helps people. I think church history brought people. It was focused on bringing people out of trouble, or to get needs met, or to escape hell, or and it was just the first half of the picture, but then religion just kind of kept people there feeling worthless, or like they had no real reason for being, except I'm going to get back in trouble again, and I'm going to need Jesus to bail me out, and that kind of thing. Right. So religion kind of became that, I've got to get myself to a place, but I can't quite get there, so I'm going to have to keep repenting every week. And so, but what I began to discover, and I began to see you as well in your own right, is that the kingdom brings us on to the rest of the story. Meaning now it's not just trying to stay out of trouble or try not to sin or try not to go to hell. But now it's, no, I've gone into, like a letter doesn't get fully delivered just from somewhere, but it has to go into somewhere. Right. So now the rest of the story is our purpose and our destiny and why God put us on the planet to impact change. And I see that happening in your life, and I couldn't be more proud.
Wow. I appreciate it. I mean, it's always great to have your parents proud of you and what you do. But the thing is, in ministry, you're right. It's kind of like religion becomes this thing of where, you got to do A, B, C, and D. And, but the real thing is something that is ministry. What does it mean to be a minister of the word? Nowadays, and in the time of the Pharisees, when Jesus was walking and talking with people, he went to the temple and he did, and he even studied just because it was good for him. Mm-hmm. But he was still Jesus, and he went out to the people and did what he did. The Pharisee says you weren't of the cloth, you didn't do this, you didn't, you don't know. And I feel like that carries on in today. And listen, I think, again, hopefully I don't get chastised for this, but if you want to do seminary, that's great. In your learning, and I think seminary is great. What you do with the Bible, the Evangelical Bible College, what they do there, and what you do through teaching people of theology or different things, that's great too. But the thing is to be a minister of the word does that really mean that you have to pay a set course a month, and now you're going to get a certificate, and now you can minister to the? I think that we've kind of and correct me if I'm wrong. I think we've taken some ideology of the scrolls, the Pharisees, and what they say you have to take these classes in order to become like a rabbi or these things that, and I think it's great to do for your learning and because I do as well for seminary. It really taught me but to have the experience of ministry, nothing can really ever prepare you for that.
Yeah, I think because all those things may bring knowledge, but not real knowing.
It's a good point.
Because, people know about God. They may know. It's almost like that bracelet, what would Jesus do? Mm-hmm. Or, it should be, what is he doing?
Right.
In us. So, I think, and this is what I've seen in you, there is a place, there is a time to gain the knowledge, to get the foundational thing and the fundamentals. But what happened to your mom and I, when we were in that cyclone
cycle
cycle was that it wasn't really ministry that was the enemy. It was a machine. It was doing what we felt the systems said we had to do to perform, and at the expense of our creativity. But then when God delivered us out of that, and denominations wouldn't have anything to do with us anymore and all those kind of things, that God began to present the understanding of the kingdom as a government to understand our real purpose, why we're here, why I'm not just a sinner saved by grace. I was a sinner. Now I'm saved, so I'm a new creation.
Right.
What is that for? Am I just supposed to sit and wait for the next boat to heaven, or is there something more? And I think that it's an enjoyable thing for me to watch your journey to where you keep unfolding that as well, but you're doing it as an original. Yep. You're not just copying what I'm doing, right, but you're exclusively who you are. And talk to me just a minute about that journey. I mean, how have you felt that is unfolding, and how were you able to discard some of the things that might have held you back?
Well, it's interesting because, as you know, I was with Pastor Todd Smith at the Common Ground. It was the Vineyard, and Vineyard was it's non-denominational, but it's a great togetherness, the Vineyard, and it was kind of a different take on, because I've heard the Church of God, the Church Assemblies of God, I've already knew about all of them, and then I was with Vineyard. I'm like, wow, okay, so this is a different take on this, and then. I was with Christ Family, as you know, Pastor Jerry, Pastor Donlin, and it was just a different take there as well. And coming now into, my father-in-law, Craig, as you know, and also Global Embassy Network is also not but it's a different type. It's a different type of ministry in what it's doing for the kingdom and advancement and for people. And I mean, it's just for acknowledgement and helping people guide them to their purpose. And I think they all have that entail here. And then we're coming here. It's just kind of like I've seen all those things. I'm like, well, we're all pretty much, there's this same. It's the gospel that we need to that we need to portray. And in the journey of that, I've kind of taken, it's kind of like you, if you listen to something, you just have to have some discernment. Because I've said so many people talk into my life where I'm like, okay, I received that, but I need to pray about that. And I need to, instead of just taking everything in and then just kind of using everything as it's more so the journey of what I'm seeing of like, what do people need, and then going back to the, Jesus. And don't get me wrong, I love church and I love the aspect of church, praise and worship, and we do all this stuff and it's really great, but really it's just people coming together because we have the freedom to do that. And to where you can't just go to a public place and want to talk to somebody about, Jesus and what he did. Church is a safe place to come and do that because the world is crazy. I mean, you can't just go anywhere and start talking about advancing in the kingdom. You can't just do that. People are like, what kingdom are you talking about?
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts on PlayStation? Right. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They don't know. And so the thing is, and not to say that they don't know because we know more, but they also say stuff that I don't know that I'm like, wait a minute, maybe pertain to their job, something that they do with construction.
So it's about listening, too.
Listening. So if a guy's, coming in there going to talk about construction because he knows about construction, I don't, But he tries to come and talk to me about it. Well, I don't have any knowledge of that. This is why people have togetherness of different things of what they do. They have different establishments. But church also is more just outside the four walls. And I think we kind of, like my journey is basically, really telling me more is that church is a great place to come together. But as you always say, to equip. And Pastor Craig believes that too, to equip so we can send out. That we're not just supposed to worship just in the four walls. It's just that we could worship at home. We could be with our families. Worshiping is also, praising God in the fact of loving your families and putting them first. And just different things like that where I think, Jesus really just kept it simple.
Yeah.
And I think that we kind of overcomplicated quite a bit of it. And I want to do the simplicity of, I mean, we want to care what people, we want to make sure people have a good experience, but it's also just about our people being loved. And I think it's really what it comes down to, and that's what the kingdom is. The kingdom is, but, and Jesus, what the disciples, and it's for political reasons, the disciples brought up political things a lot of times. And this is before, obviously, Democrat, Republican, liberal, whatever. They brought up, oh, no, but, the leaders won't like that in the political realm. He says, well, mine is a different kingdom. And I think he set that apart because as men and women, we've now congregated to make these establishments or kingdoms that we have in our rules and regulations that God knew that would be. He says, this is why my kingdom is different. Yeah. That we're set apart. Yeah. And this kingdom is made for everybody, but at the same time, and there's a law within this kingdom, but how we're swept up in so much of, oh, she's saying that, he's saying that, or we're just for this. And within church, too, church feels like they have to follow some sort of conduct politically. And really, it's just about the kingdom and what it's established. And that's really my journey, and what it's really come down to is to loving people, yes, but also realizing that we're in this world, but we're not of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That was great.
I don't know if that was a mouthful.
No, that's exactly what I want, because I think it's important, I think we buy into too many things that are told to us. We're buying into that all of those that are even got, what do they call them, the X generation, what is it?
Gen X.
Gen X, or before that, what was it?
Millennials.
And
Gen Z, then your boomer, baby boomer. And,
and so none of that was in the Scripture. None of that was in God's Word. The world came up with those designations, and then they try to make us think that all of those Gen X's and all those other kind of that they are the generation that's just totally lost and they're no longer seeking God. And all of that is just the embellishment of what the enemy wants to make it look like. But I really believe that your generation and the generation that you're pouring into, the next generation beyond that, is giving it's called a heritage. It's from an inheritance. And so you're carrying on in your generation. I'm hoping that I'm still able to bless, but I now can spend more time rather than trying to build what I think my ministry is. I prefer to pour it into yours, and then you begin to pour it into others. Right. And so, when we what we're doing is we take away the generation gap, because I really believe that some of the ideas, and you see this a little more than I do, the ideas that are forming the creativity in the young people today need to be celebrated. They need to be addressed. And one of the ways that you do this is you're a gamer.
Yeah.
And
proudly,
so, and
yes.
for those older folks who may not know what that means.
Video games.
Video games. And you actually built up a following through actually just playing a game. Mm-hmm. And talk about that. How was that an innovative way to reach the Gen X or whatever we want to call it?
I guess it would be Gen Z now, because
Gen
Lucy, my daughter's a Gen Z.
Oh,
they
by the
categorize
way,
everything.
You have a beautiful wife,
Yes.
Courtney,
Yes.
and beautiful daughter,
Lucy. And they're both smarter than I am.
Yeah, and they keep you in line.
They really do. They really do. But I like to tease them. You got to tease them from every once in a while. But and gaming was just one of them. And actually, we're playing shows as well. Listen, my band and I, we can attest to when we played, the songs I wrote, because I was the writer of the song my buddy Cody co-wrote with me, but we're believers, and we sang songs not about ladies, about God. And it was personal things. Something we'd write in our room, something I'd write in my room is very personal to God. And we'd go play places at bars, at arenas, at different things. Pretty cool one time. We went to go play at this place in Fort Lauderdale, and they had these this bar had these pictures of some naked individuals and different things, and they actually covered the pictures for us when we were there. And I was like, wow, it's really nice of them, and they kind of said, well, we know you guys are kind of not a Christian band, but anyways, we did this just out of respect. We didn't even ask them. They just did it, which is really nice. But we met a whole lot of other people too, and I said, well, thanks, but we really just wanted to minister to those people who weren't in church. I mean, agnostic, atheists, Satanists, Wiccans. We would play shows, but we wouldn't say anything like, in Jesus' name. We would know. I said, let God do the speaking for us, and let's just sing. And music's such a powerful tool, and so we did that. So many people came to us, and they said, well, you're not in church clothes. Well, no. Yeah, you don't have to do that, and that was the uprising then, and gaming is just something that I really love. It really unwinds me, and kind of, it's my little, de-stressor. It's really fun, but you're talking to people all over the world. I mean, you get in this random match with somebody. It could be a grown up to a kid, and these people just start talking to you. Like, oh, my parents are separated, or I just lost my job, or But I was like, hey, well, you know what? Let's try and win this game. You got what it takes. Let's go. These people would join a chat saying, wow, thank you so much. And say, hey, listen, you guys need help with anything, let me know. And it's just kind of what it is, though, is just me. I just want to be real in what I do. If I like playing music, I'll play music, And if somebody has an opinion otherwise, well, it's okay. It's your opinion. But if I play a game and then I'm playing a game and somebody else has another opinion, well, that's your opinion. But even that person I'm playing with, or the music that I'm playing with, if they have something that against it, it really doesn't matter, because I'm just doing what I love, and I'm doing it, and at the same time, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to love people while I do it, and then that doesn't mean I can't show the love of God in what I do. So, but I do it in a way of just not of, can I pray for you? I say, listen, I'll keep you in my prayers. Wow, thanks. I mean, it means a lot. People, and I think, just want to be listened to, and They want to be, you know, I'm very real. I read comic books or video games, play music, and you know, and I love writing and different things. It's just, but you know, that was another thing. I went to Comic-Con, you know, and you know, it's funny.
And you were dressed
right, but you know what's funny is that
dressed in what?
I was dressed as a lot of things. I've been dressed as a Fallout character, a video game character, Kylo Ren from Star Wars, a lot of things. But the thing is that, you know, when I first went there a long time ago, I was like, look at these weirdos dressed up. But, and the thing was, then now look at me, I'm dressed just like them. I'm just like, well, I love video games. I love all this. I got into it so much. But, you know, I think people come into church thinking the same thing. I think people come into church say, look at these weirdos. But you know what? The Comic-Con people, they came right up to me and just were talking to me.
Yeah.
They were so nice.
Yeah.
I felt like I was being greeted.
Were they talking to you or Kylo Ren?
No, they were talking to me. I took off my helmet. So, no, but they were talking to me. They made it personal. Like, hey, what do you like about Kylo Ren, Star Wars? Cool. I just liked that I was being talked to. And I was like, cool. And I met some really awesome people. And I think that sometimes in the church realm, what we're missing, we're thinking like, oh, a new person, we'll let them. We don't want to scare them off. Go ahead and, no, just talk to people. Just say, hey, how you doing? Where are you from?
Yeah.
Cool. You even want to talk about God, talk about God, talk about whatever. And
Yeah.
it's just really cool to meet so many people. And I think that's what people just need is relationship,
Yeah.
value, to be listened to, and to sometimes they just like to listen as well.
You know, oftentimes I've felt that the way to relate to people is listening.
Yeah.
Because what I try to do is I try to find something in the conversation that they're doing more of the talking. Right. I want to know, you know, what makes you tick? What is, you know, what's your passion? How do you feel about, you know, where you're headed as far as your occupation or your passion? And so when we do that, because there's God's image in there that they may not be aware of because he made them in his image. Right. But it's all shoved down through all of this crud, maybe. And so when you listen real close, you begin to hear a passion. Yeah. That is coming through their own lips. And once you tap into that passion, and it's something you can tap into because it's wholesome or what, you know. Right. But once you're able to tap into that and celebrate that, then they know you have connected to something in them that is beyond what they think they are. Right. And so I see you do that a lot too. You know, you are a really good listener. And I know sometimes it's hard to listen to some things people say because you're like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? But you have to, you know, have that face of, oh really, that's interesting. Yeah. You know?
You know, I used to be a really bad listener because I thought like, you know, okay, well, I really want to listen to people. But sometimes I think about things I have to get done during the day. We all do it. But I'm talking about, you know, why can't I take a few moments just to listen and to, you know, really see where somebody is, where they're coming from in their life. And we all struggle with that. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. I think that's and you can really acknowledge people and not, let's say you have different beliefs in what you believe. You don't have to dog anybody down. You just be like, okay, well, you know, that's your prerogative. And that's, hey, like, I appreciate you talking to me. And I always felt like, again, I had to convince people but that's where it's so different because what the kingdom is a personal relationship. We can't mess with that. Yeah. You know, it's like trying to set somebody up, you know, it's like trying to set somebody up on a blind date, you know? Oh, you're going to love my friend Jesus. Okay, so first off, he walked on water one time. Yeah. Ask him about that. Yeah. Really good. He healed me, but let's not talk about me. Right. And then he did, listen, just go home and pray. You're going to like him. You're really going to like him. And then what happens is you build up Jesus to this, you know, and then what happens is like, wow, I didn't feel anything, or I did. That's because it's a personal, you don't want to interfere. Because I feel like when we interfere,
it's not a slam dunk.
Right. I mean, and sometimes maybe because of God reaching for something, that's why the relationship is all so different, you know? And I'm just like, that's when somebody says, well, how do I get to know Jesus? I'm like, you know what? That is up to you. Yeah. I don't know. I say, I know how we can pray and how, you know, the generalization of what to do from what I know. I said, but let me tell you something. I'm still learning about my relationship with Christ, and,
Yeah.
and I love Him so much, and this is just what I know, and that's
Yeah.
I think that's a testament to be a witness.
Yeah.
You know, to be like, oh, I'm a witness because this is what I've seen.
Yeah.
You know, but we're not out to convince a jury of our peers. You know, it's you know, I guess it goes to the. It's Jesus. It's on Him to say.
Well, I know that through your journey, in some ways, you are like me. In other ways, you're your own person. But I know that when I was growing in ministry, in fact, growing up, I was shy, and I couldn't believe God would put a calling on my life that involved getting up in front of people, because I was just so shy. But then that turned into becoming a people pleaser, and so even in the early days of ministry, I wanted to make sure everybody was okay. I wanted to make sure, did you understand what I was saying? I didn't mean to say it that way. And to where I had to come out of that and begin to move into the reality of who I was discovering I really am,
Right.
and why He would put that on my life to be my reason for being on the planet. And I've seen you go through the same thing. I remember seeing you were so concerned about everybody being okay. Mm-hmm. And, did I say that right? And sometimes even to the point of you would correct yourself 2 or 3 times to find maybe this will fit somebody, And I've seen you grow out of that to where it's not that you don't care about a person, but now you've come into a place to where you're maturing into your desire to please God.
Right.
And to be who He made you to be. And if people like that, then so be it. If they don't, so be it.
Actually, one of my my mentors, which I think it's important to have mentors in your life. So, like, you are obviously my mentor, and then Pastor Craig, who's one of mine as well. But I think you also, because he's my father-in-law, you're my actual father. I actually have a mentor who I work with. His name is Joe. I mean, he's just such a you met him, such a mighty man of God, and I think it's good to have somebody outside your family realm too who can be honest with you and be straightforward with you. That's one thing he said to me. He says, about people pleasing, and how to, when we're leading, how to be direct, but also how to be direct in love. And it's so true. It's one of those things, I guess we're constantly, because we want to make sure people are loved, which is really great. But first and foremost, I make sure my family's loved. Yeah. That's, my wife and my daughter. That's my first aspect of every morning. When I do that, I feel like already I'm at 100%. So I feel like now I'm able to love people better because of that. Yeah. And to answer your question before, and I'm sorry, I might have dovetailed off of that, but I think it's really important as a young person, and this is why important for board members, elders, to realize that you have such an amazing gift in wisdom to give, that it's on both parts to say, for me, I think it's really good to take, if there's wisdom from my father, from my mentors, to be like, you know what, you're right, and to have my own creativity and put that together, and to take the wisdom and use it for my life. But a lot of guys my age are like, no, I've seen it done before. I know how to do it. I have way better, bigger ideas. Doesn't mean they don't have big ideas. It just means that you need to take the wisdom that's being given to you and just realize that you're still in training. You're still learning. But also for the elders, have a job to really try to see where the young person's coming from. Just like you do. You're like, you know what? I'm not you, and I know that you're on this new thing, but you know what? I believe in you. Yeah. And God's telling me this for you. That's all you really need. And that's if we don't have that from the elders or from our mentors, we're doomed for failure pretty much. I mean, when you think about it. Well, God can, but we all have to do our part. And that's why, leading and wherever God's leading me next year, whether it may be, X, Y, or Z, it's important that I take in the wisdom that is given to me to help my life. Yeah. But also not lose who I am.
Yeah. Well, and again, for those of you just tuning in. Oh boy, I dated myself.
It's all fuzzy.
This is my son, spiritual as well as physical son,
Yes.
Jay Kendall, who is with me today as we're sitting in together. And I have the seat of the Apostle Chris Turney, who is out today. And so I wanted to, for those of you just coming in, I want you to encourage you to share this too, because we're really talking about, when you talked about the wisdom of those that are up in years, as far as not years, but in their experience.
Just experience, yeah.
Yeah, and because I know a lot of gray-headed babies. So, I mean, it's not about how old physically we are. It's about how we've come into that seasoning. I'm thinking of the scripture in the book of Acts. It says, when he poured out his Spirit, it says that sons and daughters will prophesy. And that simply, it's not a religious term. It means they will become the forth tellers and the, you could say, the colonization of the kingdom into all the world. So there's a lot to that. But then he says, your old men will dream dreams, and your young men will see visions. And I asked the Lord about that one day, and I said, I want a clear understanding of what that means. Well, and this is what I feel he gave to me and through some study. The old men, meaning those that are seasoned, are still dreaming. I know young people can dream. A dream is really a vision that's in infancy. But when it says your old men will dream and your young men, meaning women as well, will see visions, visions are those things that will become accomplishments through the young people. But they need the dreams of the old or the seasoned to give some clarity as to really what that vision means. In other words, as now I'm still extremely young, okay?
Yes.
Yes, thank you for confirming that.
You make me feel so young.
But, as I'm getting to an age where I'm at, I'm realizing that it's not so much about me going out and getting it done or accomplishing a vision, but now I still dream, but now I can pour that into your vision. Because now I may not see it in my lifetime, what I have that. I'm kind of in between. I guess you could say I'm a creamer. A dreamer and I'm a dreamer and a visionary, so that's a freemer. Anyway.
A freemer, you just made me want some coffee, but other than that.
Right. So
I'm a creamer. What brand?
to me, I thoroughly believe now more than ever, it's my heart to pour whatever I may see God saying into you as one who's going to be able to carry it forth. And to me, that's a legacy.
Yeah, and I think we do that too. I'll do it for Lucy, my daughter. I'm like, she's got so many great gifts, I think we're constantly doing that, but in that phase of maybe, where you have a lot of experience, where somebody I'm only gaining, I'm getting experience, yeah, but somebody who's had the experience of doing that, it's important that you do give that, because when you pour into that, it's just the pay it forward. I think one person said one time, he says, if we all actually paid it forward, down to poor people, rich people, wherever class you come from, if everyone paid it forward of 20% or 10%, they said the world would actually be, a lot of the world would be solved financially. It's interesting because that's what we're made to do. We're made to pour out. And I think when we keep it in, that's why we explode. That's why we don't know what to do, because our vessel, we need to be pouring out into others, Yeah. And then again, you have the pervertedness and nastiness of the world of how they pour out, but is that a really pouring out, and it's, sometimes it feels like, the evilness of the world is being more proactive sometimes. But of course, that's only the social media and media that tells you that. But really, God is just as proactive in his people. And it's just, and that's our part. But see, that's why God says, I'm not going to do it for you. I always describe this, and this is just a joke, everybody. I'm not really saying this is factual. One person actually asked me one time, like, why do you think God in the Old Testament was just so Sodom and Gomorrah? Yeah, or, the flood. And I was like, and then the New Testament, Jesus comes. I was like, I kind of picture God in the Old Testament is just, he's parenting, Because, when you're parents, you're like, put that down. I'm going to spank you. No, no. You're very, you gotta be rough on your kids.
In the Old Testament.
In the Old Testament. And then in the New Testament, it's like he becomes a grandparent. Oh, you have a problem? My son will help you. Oh, my gosh, you're growing up so quick. You need forgiveness? Well, my son. I'll take care of you, but if my son will be there. I kind of feel like that's, because, my parents, not you guys are great parents, but they were strict. And now to see them with the grandkids, I'm like, these aren't the same people. These is not the same people that they were here. And the grandkids are like, they're so nice and sweet. I'm like, yeah, my mom would pinch me on my leg in the back seat. And so, but it's funny because I think of that because we try to relate that, but it's just kind of God says, I sent my son.
Yeah.
And it's like, I believe that God understood what that power of what his son would do. And it's kind of, like you said, legacy. Mm-hmm. Did God not do that with his son? Mm-hmm. Did he not say, you know what? My son here, I'm going to pour into you who I am because you will relate to them for me.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did. Mm-hmm. And even to see his son, he had to turn away his face when Jesus died. I think it's all about pouring out, and I think that's what God does, you know. And I think, people who we want to keep that in. It's just like, listen, you have something to give, and you have this. I know there's these desires, but you're right. The dream is just, it's so small, but it's meant to be something of your purpose. Mm-hmm. And but I think that's what we're made to do is pour out. And again, it's so important that not just older generation. I'm not saying that. I'm saying people of experience. Mm-hmm. To talk to people and say, well, where are you coming from, and let me talk to you. It's just, and not always to be like, because I always felt like when I became ministry and I saw some youth or kids I was mentoring, like, let me tell you a little something about the word. You may not know this story, but make sure you're listening and taking notes. Yeah. Not like that, because I did that too when I was mentoring some guys, and but really it's about what I realized when I was mentoring these young guys. I said, you know what? It's your life. I said, I'm here if you need me. Mm-hmm. I'm here if you want to talk, and I'm not here to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And you know what? The responsibility of what they would do in their life, I didn't feel so, I could have done, I feel I'm such a bad leader. No, because I thought, you know what? It's important that people feel safe enough to come to somebody else.
Absolutely. And now people can see why I'm so proud of this man of God right here.
Well, no, it's because of him. So, it's funny. I remember being on the front row of church, and like, it's a funny. If I could tell a story. So it's funny, because you're singing up there, be bold, be strong. But Victoria and I are like, you're like, for the Lord. Stop it right now. Stop it. It was funny but you see, these memories aren't just because our memories of church aren't necessarily, it's not bad. It's just, it's interesting because when you grow up that way, it's almost like you want to push it so far away. But the thing is that we're all called to ministry. Yeah. And and the thing is, does that mean ministry is just in the four walls?
No. In fact, ministry comes from the word administer, means now you have to take it and put it into something. Instead of not keep it in something. Right. So I think today.
Hopefully it was okay I told that story.
Oh, yeah. You mean I corrected you in the middle of the song?
In the middle of the song you corrected me.
No. But, I just really quickly before we wrap it up, and wow, it's gone by fast. And again, it's great to see Sharon is on, Cindy is on.
Sharon.
And let's see, some other folks. I think we please share this because, I think it's very interesting that we begin to understand that God is carrying legacy on. Legacy isn't about copying the past. It's about becoming innovative with the fundamentals of what was put and poured into somebody. You have areas that you're like me, but you are uniquely you. Ricky is uniquely him. Victoria is uniquely her. And it's an extension is going to be a greater extension when it's an original in how it approaches life. And so Do remember, though, when you were bringing up some of these things, we had a ministry outside of the church, or also part of the church, that was called Bananas the Cowboy Clown, and where I was Bananas the sheriff of Kidsville, and we had full Western sets. We had good guys, bad guys. We had complete plots, and so I would come out, "Hi there, kids," and so, and we would lead them in songs, have games, and those kind of things, but then bring a principle of the kingdom to their young minds. And I've even met some of these young people that were kids in the mall, and now they're grown, and they have a wife and a baby, and they say, "Hey, Bananas, you remember me?" And they actually remember some of the things we shared. So that is, to me, legacy. That is not just because it was about what I did, it was what they got that was implanted into them. And so, but during those shows, I remember when you got old enough, and Ricky's a little older than you, but you got old enough to be in the Bananas Wild West shows, that you were Prickly Prune Face.
Yes, now I really am.
And he was Bad Bart.
Yeah.
And so you were so young, in order to look like outlaws, we had to put the rubber mask on you to make you look like a Prickly Prune Face and him. And so, and before you were so young, we didn't have your real voice yet. I pre-recorded Bad Bart and Prickly Prune Face.
By the way, I remember hearing him in the room because, like, make sure nobody comes in the room, I'm going to be recording. But this is when you had to hold, record, and play on the cassette tape. So we hear, "Hey there, boss."
But then you got old enough to where, you didn't have to have the mask, and you could actually do the voices yourself. And so, do you think any of that training followed you on into children's ministry?
And I think I overacted a few times. You're like, "Oh, that's good."
Yeah.
I'm an overactor. So, no, but yeah, for sure. And just to be included. And, and I think kids have to do the same with their parents. One thing I noticed that my dad would do, 007, Man from U.N.C.L.E., watch these TV shows. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch this with him, I remember saying, I'm like, "This is what," and I remember just getting into it. I was like, wow, this is great. And that was the way we spent time together, too. Like, I know all these old films and vintage films and different things just because I watched it. But I think it's just about including each other in that. Mm-hmm. And to be included in that, I remember I wanted so badly to talk. Ricky talked before I did as Bad Bart. Yeah. And I still had the voice, the cassette voice, on me. And I was like, "No, I'm ready, Coach. Put me in. Put me in." And my dad was like, because I was bad at memorizing lines. I wasn't there yet. And he knew that, though. Mm-hmm. But I remember Ricky was able to talk. "Isn't that right? Prickly Prune Face?" Yeah. But also, I feel kind of, what's really funny is, I know we have to close soon, but what's looking back really funny is that, my dad would play Bananas, and he would dress up at the house or at the church. We had no clue who he was. No clue. Bananas! We didn't know him for the longest time. Longest time, we just did not know until we're like, wow, you remember? He'd get dressed at the house and sneak out or what. We had no clue. We're like, we got to see Bananas. Here come the grandkids, okay, around our same age. My dad does Bananas like, "We know it's you, Papa." "We know it's you."
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
a full clown outfit. Yeah. So.
And I was like, what? How did he know?
Well, next generation's, a little smarter.
I guess so. But no, it's funny because and for your story, too, about somebody who come up to you about legacy, I used to do, obviously, I used to work at Common Ground. That's where I really started, and doing kids ministry was a lot of fun. And so I remember I was at Walmart about 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and I was in Walmart just looking for something. This tall guy, but taller than me, blonde, like buzz cut, but like very nicely dressed, fitted suit. "Pastor J." I'm like, "Oh." And I look, and I'm like, "Oh, yes, sir. Can I help you?" "Oh, I was in your kids program." This guy was only like 19.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, where?" And he told me where, and he's like, "Oh, remember that one about Jonah you did? That was really good." I'm like, "How old are you?" And he was like 19, and by that time I was probably 20, 28 or 29 or when I was almost 30. And so I was like, wow, but he just looked older than he. I was like, how old am I again? I shouldn't be having this yet. I'm only like 30 years old.
Yeah.
But it was really cool because he remembered and he, it was.
And that's really the legacy we're talking about. It carries on into the next. So we always have to be ready to pour into the next generation.
And I think, real fast, is that you said kids ministry, youth, and I know you've done all that too. It's really great because I love talking to adults because you can just you can be real, but you have to be it's very more. Straight to this is the points, and this is it's really intelligent.
Yeah.
Youth, you're just trying to not look like a dweeb the whole time. It's pretty much you want to be in their cool circle, which is the toughest one.
Yeah.
But kids is great.
Yeah.
Because they will listen to every word.
Some of the
that
characters
you
you did was Dingo Ringo.
Dingo Ringo, yes.
And he was from Australia.
He's from Australia. He teaches kids about animals, but he also then relates what the scripture verse, to be speeding quick with your mind with the word of God, I mean, like a cheetah.
And you were Ninja Freddy.
Ninja Freddy beat up the devil with scripture. Yes. Yeah.
And on it goes. Well, we so appreciate those of you that have viewed today. And again, hope you'll share this when it's recorded and posted, because it will be out there for you to view later on. And I do want to thank you again, Jay. And wow, you are an awesome son, but even more than a great man of God.
Well, there's only a reason because of him.
No,
so.
it's we did our part, but you're carrying it on, and I don't want to weep, but it's a blessing.
You can weep. It's
Yeah,
okay.
it's okay. So we want to encourage you also now as we get ready to wrap it up, to actually really seriously consider sowing financial seed into Kingdom Reign Ministries. I have never met a ministry that gives so much like they do. They just constantly pour out funds into areas that if God says to do it, they would actually clean out a bank account to make it happen. You see there on your screen ways that you can invest a seed. You say, well, it's not my church. Yeah, but it is part of the body of Christ. And sometimes we have to give outside of the things that we're used to giving to really begin to multiply that seed. So you see there the ways that you can give: mobile giving, online giving. And I want to also say happy birthday to Lady Jill Turney.
Happy birthday.
It's her birthday today. And so, I'm going to encourage this. If you want to, I just felt like doing this because I felt God said to do it, so we'll blame him.
I blame him.
But if you want to give a birthday gift into Lady Jill, you can give that through the KRM Cash App and just designate it for her birthday, because she is definitely a powerful woman of God and blesses so many people, and probably is even blushing because we're mentioning this today. But consider that, or consider giving into KRM Ministries, and there it is again. We are so thankful that you tuned in today. I know it wasn't the same without Apostle Chris.
Apostle Chris.
Yeah. I think I do a little
Rick.
better. But hey, we did our best, and hopefully, and thank you for our wonderful sound and audio lady back there that came in to take care of everything. We love you so much, and we're going to say